I'm super excited. Oh. So Elm as an antidote to front-end fatigue. First of all, some context. This. So front-end JavaScript is terrible, and there are several different opinions about this. Something that most people more or less agree is JavaScript fatigue is a problem. What is JavaScript fatigue? Is the idea that things are moving so fast that we are overwhelmed by all this new technology, and we can't digest them fast enough. I think this is a problem, but I think this is not exactly why it is a problem. This is a page from GitHub. It's a nice tutorial that explains how to make a fully scalable web application using as few technologies as possible. It uses 9. So this is 9 different things as a baseline. A full-fledged production application usually will have a lot more than those. So I think that JavaScript fatigue is not that there are 1 million different libraries out there. It's that of those 1 million, we don't have to pick 3. We have to pick 9. In fact, we can see that the tutorial itself focuses on wiring the tools together. It's not about learning those tools. Okay? If we continue, this is the table of contents of the tutorial. It's 12 pages. It's not 12 pages that explain you what the tool does and the options that it has. It's 12 pages of configuration. It's 12 pages before you can actually start solving your problem, writing your specific stuff. Okay? This is frustrating. Okay? It's not a problem of having many technologies. It's a problem of having to use many of them to have something acceptable, scalable, maintainable, and having to wire them together. Because the more moving parts you have, the more it's difficult to make them work nicely together. And it's not something you do once and then you forget about it. Every time you have to change something, Webpack will need a new plugin that must be of the proper version, and then Karma will come in complaining that you added TypeScript. Okay, the interaction are many and problematic. Now, how did we get to this point? Okay, because JavaScript is the only thing that runs on our browsers. The reason we are using JavaScript, it's because it's what runs on our browsers. But this is actually true. Well, we don't really write the language that runs on all browsers. We write JSX, we write annotated JavaScript with TypeScript or Flow, we write ES6, we write ES7, we write CoffeeScript, we write PureScript. None of those things natively runs in a browser. Why do we use this? We use this to try to patch up the flow, the problems that we have when using JavaScript. We are building workarounds on top of each other. It's a huge monster ball of workarounds. So what if we took a step back and reconsidered modern web development? Okay, how would this look like? We're compiling anyway, so we don't really have any reason to stick with JavaScript. And here comes Elm. Does anyone here know what Elm is? Anyone heard? Okay, so Elm is a purely functional programming language. It is strictly type, which in turn allows it to guarantee no runtime errors whatsoever. It has a time-traveling debugger, which is just as fancy as it sounds. It cures cancer, it solves global warming, and it's yet the latest overhyped tech. We spent 2 days listening to hype of different techs. And when we are offered something new, we think, is it really worth it? Do I need to learn a different way of programming, different libraries, new stuff? If you ask me, no, it isn't. Like, this stuff alone, it's, well, cures cancer and solves global warming, totally worth it, but I lied to you. Elm can't really do that stuff. I'm sorry. But those are not the reasons I ended up sticking with Elm. I ended up going through the learning curve. So why did I? What was the selling point for me? Elm tackles the problem from the ground up. It reimagines what web development would look like if it was designed with the modern web in mind. Elm, unlike many new technologies, does not try to play nice with JavaScript. You can use JavaScript and Elm together, but the design decision with Elm is that you want to write as much Elm as possible and do away as much as you can with JavaScript. This obviously comes with a cost. We have to learn new stuff. We cannot use many of the libraries that we learn to love with JavaScript. So do we want to do this? I would like to convince you that it may be worth it. There are some very good things that happen once we decide to do away with as much JavaScript as we can. So this is a very nice thing. There is a simpler build. And I can't use, oh, right, it works. So the slide that I was showing you, they are written entirely in Elm. So I have a very small repo with all my slide making stuff there. And what you see here is the repo. So there is an Elm package.json, which is just meta stuff about the package and dependencies. There is an Elm stuff, which is just the downloaded libraries, because I didn't want to risk the internet connection here and the download in front of you, because the gods of demo are evil and ficklish. An images directory that contains just the 2 screenshots of the tutorial that I showed you before. An index.html, which is actually what we generate, and a main HTML, main.elm. All the source of the presentation is actually this main.elm, which I'm going to show you. OK, so we have some imports. This piece of code is behavior, so it's the definition of the animation for the fragments and the slides. Then we have some, we should recognize this. This is CSS. I am expressing CSS in Elm. We had a talk before where they wanted to have interpolate added to the CSS spec. We don't need this. We don't need Sass. We don't need less. We have the full power of a programming language to express CSS. We can use variables. We can use functions. We can use modules. This is neat. Below, I actually have the content. It is expressed as Markdown because it's faster to write than HTML. But I could have HTML. In the same file, I have behavior, style, markup. I don't have to do this. I can split in modules. I can use normal CSS with Sass or less or whatever. But it's a nice to have. And drum roll. This is how I turn the code that you just saw into something that the browser can understand. This is not a trivial thing. The library is as a virtual DOM, is fully reactive. It has a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of nested dependencies. And here it is. The output is directly HTML. Normally, this is what we would need to do to gain this. 5 different steps, 5 different tools, all right? And compare with this. Bam. You know how I felt the first time I tried this? This was the fatigue going away. There are other nice things that we can do if we accept that JavaScript is not our main language. The type checking becomes reliable. Now, we have type checking already. We have TypeScript, we have Flow, and it's not like Elm's type checker can find different kind of errors, okay? It's not conceptually different, but it has a huge advantage. It is enforced all over Elm. You cannot write Elm code that is not type checked. This sometimes is a pain in the ass because you don't want to think about it, but it means that the code becomes reliable. Even the libraries that you're using, they are fully type checked. They are not going to have runtime errors. I spent one day last week because our application, it is importing the same library nested by other libraries, same library 6 times. That was an error that happened only in Internet Explorer 11, and I had to spend one day because a runtime error in Internet Explorer 11. Over 6 split libraries that I didn't even know which one of the version was it. You know how I feel when I have to think, wait, I don't have to debug Internet Explorer anymore. This is, again, fatigue going away. This is less technologies to configure and to patch together. This is bringing that 9 to 3, 4. Yes, and it's much faster because it doesn't have to run on all code every time. Third thing, fewer and simpler tests. Now, the best test is the one that you don't have to write. And this is not only because of the guarantee of no runtime errors. It's also because you can model very precisely your application in such a way that impossible states are impossible. You cannot describe wrong states with your code. This is massive. The reliable type checking prevents most runtime errors. I don't have to write integration tests. If 2 modules have an interface that the compilers like, they will work together. If it compiles, it works. This is, again, super relaxing. It's less stuff that I have to think about, less tests that I have to write, I don't have to test the boilerplate. Last, every function is pure. If you have written unit tests for the front end, oftentimes we have to include that module, include the other module, mock this, mock that, before each, after each, fixtures. You have oftentimes to simulate the DOM. What does it mean to have a function that is pure? It means that that function cannot affect its context. It cannot affect its environment. It cannot even change its input arguments. It can only affect its result, the value it returns. This means that to test anything, you just have to just prepare the arguments, run the function, and test what the function outputs. The test cannot interact among each other. We don't have to configure karma. We don't have to configure jest. We have just to test pure functions. So those 3 things, I think they address really well what is JavaScript fatigue. We have so many fewer things to configure, so many different things to set up, so fewer things to wire together less moving parts that can go wrong. Now, Elm is very promising. It has a long way to go still. It's not the solution to all evils. I really like this radical rethinking, though. I think this is the direction we should move, and I hope that there will be more of this in the future. Now, I kept you along enough away from lunch. There is an Melbourne meetup. Me and Sebastian, which is down there. Wave, Sebastian. Okay. So if you guys are interested, you can come and chat with us. This is my Twitter and Slack handle. Thank you very much for your patience.